Listen to this. You got to listen to this. It's from Attorney General Barr. Here it is.
That's the bottom line. After nearly 2 years of investigation, thousands of subpoenas, hundreds of warrants, and witness interviews, the special counsel confirmed that the Russian government sponsored efforts to illegally interfere with the 2016 presidential election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or other Americans colluded in those efforts.
You heard it right from the Attorney General. Judge Napolitano joins us now. What do you say? You watched this press conference, Judge. Your reaction, please.
Well, I can't wait until I get the 400 pages in my hands, Stuart. I think that the press conference, which will please the president very much, will continue to whet the appetite of the Democrats, who, of course, will not only be satisfied with the 400-page report unredacted, but will want to see the documents on which the report is based. So as happy as I am for the president that this monkey is off his back, I do believe that politically this is just turning another page and the battle moves to Congress. Remember, the House of Representatives voted unanimously 420-0 to subpoena the entire unredacted report and thereby make it public.
But, Judge, that just sets up an opportunity to go after all the underlying evidence and basically retry the entire investigation. You know that's what's going to happen. I don't think America stands for that, Judge. I don't think America stands for it.
I think the country will be sick and tired of that.
Yes.
But what the Democrats want to do, and this may very well explode in their faces politically, Stuart, is second-guess Bill Barr and Bob Mueller. You know, Barr told us that there are 10 instances of alleged obstruction of justice. Whatever the bottom line is, they decided there's not enough to prove the case. The Democrats are going to take those 10 instances and parade some lawyers out there, ex-prosecutors will say, there is enough to prove the case, which is why I said this just turns the page. The serious legal jeopardy for the president is gone. The political jeopardy, he knows how to deal with.
But Mr. Barr went out of his way to say there had been a relentless media claim of culpability on the part of the president, which absolutely was not there.
Yes.
That angered the president.
Yes.
And the Democrats are going to interpret that anger as interfering and obstructing justice. But Mr. Barr went out of his way to say at no time did the president interfere in any redactions, and nobody outside the Justice Department redacted anything.
To you and me and our colleagues in the studio and to people watching, what you just said makes eminent sense. But to the Democrats and the Trump haters, it's fuel for them to continue digging more deeply into this. I think they're making a mistake doing it, but I predict that they're going to do it because that's what they think their base wants.
If you want to impeach a president, he's got to be guilty of a high crime or misdemeanor. I take it that this Barr press conference and the Mueller report absolve him of any chance of impeachment. Is that accurate?
In the minds of reasonable persons, yes. In the minds of unreasonable persons who want to impeach him no matter what, no. And the reason for the harping on the obstruction of justice is because in the Nixon impeachment, which never came to pass, and in the Clinton impeachment, which did come to pass, both of them were charged with obstruction of justice, meaning there is precedent for arguing that obstruction of justice, though not articulated specifically in the Constitution, nevertheless is a basis for impeachment. This is what I'm sure we're going to start to hear this afternoon from Congressman Nadler and his colleagues.
Okay. Now, our colleague, Catherine Harridge, she asked a question of William Barr about the origins of the investigation in the first place. How did it get started? Now, he would not answer that question and quickly moved on. However, I suspect that in the very near future, we are going to be looking at how this thing got started. And that will open up another Pandora's box for conservatives, for Republicans.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, I mean, there is reason to believe that the origins of this investigation were acts of corruption. I don't mean corruption where somebody put money in somebody else's pocket, but I mean gross abuse of power, misleading FISA judges, starting what was really a criminal investigation because of a hatred of a political candidate, claiming it was a national security investigation. There's a tremendous amount to be investigated there. And I think the Attorney General, as great as Catherine's question was wise not to answer it, because that is, quote, an ongoing investigation, close quote, which is the type of matter that they don't talk about until the investigation's completed.
Sir, I got to tell you, I think the political tide has turned. From Russia, 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 now we have no collusion, no obstruction of justice. All we've got is Democrats' temper tantrum. What do you say?
Well, I wish I could believe you. And in my heart of hearts, I do agree with you. But I am convinced, and we haven't seen it. The Attorney General said there's 10 instances of alleged obstruction. The Democrats are going to find that each one of those, there's enough to bring a charge against him, even though the sane minds at the Justice Department have concluded that if you pile all of them up together, it's not enough to establish a case beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, Stuart, what those 10 instances were, I could probably guess, but we're going to have that in our laps in about an hour and a half.
Got it. Judge Napolitano, thanks for joining us, as always. We'll see you again soon.
Anytime.